Data operations is the ability to effectively support the infrastructure that contains all the data, whether it be in the cloud or on premise, and ensuring that people have the right access to that data and that the systems that are operated that use that data are performing optimally at the right cost base to be effective. So maximizing the benefits of that data and maximizing the value to business. So working in the cloud is generally easier than not working in the cloud. There are several advantages of going to the cloud, and there must be, right? Because we see so many companies now moving to the cloud compared to, say, 10 years ago, many more, and it continues to grow at a huge rate. And the reason companies are finding it easier to work in the cloud because it gives them a lot more flexibility. It allows them to resource up and resource down in much more of an elastic way than they would be able to do in their own data center. It allows them to provision data sources, databases very, very quickly at a monthly cost, rather than making a huge initial investment in new technology, servers and networking, all the rest of it. So it's very accessible. Indeed, we see a lot of startup companies actually start their business by leveraging cloud services that don't even have any in-house computing. So many advantages. However, you have to be somewhat careful. When we're talking about data operations, what we mean is having the ability to independently manage that environment to maximize the value of the data and your data architecture that you have. When we talk about cloud services, we ultimately mean applications run in the cloud with database transactions running in the background. Those database transactions, the performance of which is important in the cloud. Why does that matter? Because of the way that the cost model is set up in the cloud. So when you pay for cloud services, you pay a subscription based on a service tier. And that service tier defines how much CPU, compute, storage, and network that you can have. So it's really important that you understand the way in which your application works and how much resource it consumes, because in your data center, if you don't get that right, it means that your application will run slow and it will upset the people that are using that application. When you move to the cloud, you get the same effect, but it's compounded by the fact that anything that's running slower in the cloud is going to translate to additional cost, simply because it's taking longer to do something than it should do. And therefore, the cost model is always going to penalize you. DevOps is a culture that's come into place, I'd say, in the last 10, 15 years to enable businesses to be more agile in a formal way. But really with the introduction of DevOps as a means by which organizations can better collaborate as teams, incorporate automated processes, and use solutions that will enable them to integrate what they do into a much more efficient delivery pipeline, enables businesses to be able to be much more reactive to market changes, deal with competitive threats, and ultimately grow their business. So before you implement data operations effectively, think about perhaps going to the cloud, and I talked about the need to have efficient operations in the cloud. Particularly if you've got a new project starting up, think about data modeling, because data modeling is a way to put in place the most efficient data structure in which your data sits. And it sounds strange, but when I talk to DBAs that manage these different data systems, they sometimes say, I only wish that whoever designed the data structures would have done it differently so that it's more efficient, because even with the best tuning in the world, if the fundamental way in which you store your data is inefficient, it's going to make your application be inefficient, and that's going to have knock-on effect in the cloud. So data modeling is really a good way to understand where all the data assets are in relation to one another and optimize that structure in order that the application becomes much more efficient. We help as well with DevOps, particularly around databases and integrating the database change management workflows into an established DevOps CI/CD pipeline. We see a lot of application teams that have already got that in place, whereas on the database side, databases are more risky because they have data. That's sort of playing catch up. But so we can help integrate database operations into a DevOps pipeline. Data preparation is also essential as well. Think about empowering people to get value from data. Well, data preparation is really an essential part of that. Data preparation is really the beginning of the road towards data insights and data understanding. Without true data preparation, you're really guessing at what data you need, what makes the most sense, and also the ability to connect to multiple different data sources and pull in the right data and clean that data up before you send it to analytics. For effective data operations, what you really need is a way to monitor the infrastructure on which the data sits to make sure that applications are running optimally, make sure that you have a way to automate as many administration processes as possible to save time, and make it really easy for people who need access to data to feed to advanced analytics can do so really effectively. And for those tasks, we have Foglight, we have Toad, we have Apex SQL, and Toad Data Point. We talked about data operations, and you'll have seen that we can support different types of IT transformation projects. So in our next session, we're going to be talking about data protection. And data protection is going to go beyond what most people understand data protection to be about, backup and recovery, and start talking about other aspects of data protection as well.